Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Dear students, Assalamu alaikum. I'm Maria Farooq and I will be teaching you English literature. Today is my orientation class with you, so I will tell you about your course, the books which you are supposed to purchase. We will discuss paper pattern and we will also discuss some basic ideas or concepts of this subject. So let's get started. Okay, now as far as your course is concerned, it is divided into poetry and prose. I mean, within poetry, you will study different poems by different poets, and within prose, you will study different essays. Fine. And as far as the books are concerned, you are supposed to buy The Magic Casement, Book 2. It is a book of poetry, and an anthology of essays, which is a book of essays. Now let me explain that what is the meaning of casement and anthology. You must be thinking about. Okay, now as far as this word casement is concerned, it is a kind of window which is attached from one side and it opens like a door. So somehow this is symbolic. I mean, you will enter through this door to a world of poetry. Fine, that would be a world of magic, the magic casement. That casement, that door is a kind of window which will be opened and you will enter into the world of poetry. And next, anthology. Anthology means collection of different pieces of writings. Fine, and they are written by different people. So casement is a kind of window which is attached from one side and it opens like a door, and through this door you will enter into the world of magic, which is a world of poetry. And anthology means collection. Okay. Now paper pattern. Your paper is divided into 3 sections. Section A, MCQs. There will be 20 MCQs, and in section B there will be questions from poetry and essays, and you may say they will be critical questions. Fine. So when I will teach you poems and essays, we will do exercise towards the end, and the questions are given in your book. So these questions from poetry and essays, they will be critical questions. Right now I'm giving you a brief idea. So when we will get into the subject, so of course I will discuss different things with you. I will discuss those questions with you. And as far as section C is concerned, you can say that it's unseen. Unseen in the sense that first question, it would be of an essay. You are supposed to write an essay. So this section basically demands practice, because practice makes a man perfect. So first I will tell you how to write an essay, how to make an outline. Then I will assign you different topics and you will write different essays. Then next question is of grammar, grammatical portion, in which you are supposed to write connective words in the sentences. So that will be grammatical portion. And as far as third question is concerned, it is comprehension passage. A paragraph or passage will be given to you. You will read it out, and towards the end, questions will be given. After reading that passage or paragraph, you will answer those questions. So this was all about your paper pattern. Fine. As you know, you are studying literature, English literature. So you must be thinking that what basically literature is. So what is literature? Literature is any body of written works, not an ordinary kind of work. A work, you can say, which has an artistic or intellectual value. Fine. So this is what literature is. Literature is any body of written works, and it refers to writing. What kind of writing? Which has some artistic or some intellectual value. This is what literature is. Apart from this, you may define literature in different ways. If you ask me, I would say literature is a response to any stimulus. That stimulus can be any political, social, personal event. For example, something happens with you or you experience something When you write about it, that is literature. And that is your response to that stimulus. That stimulus can be social, political, personal. So this is what literature is. So it's up to you how you take literature or how you define it. Fine? Okay. Okay. Now this is a very common term which you will come across in future. Genre. It is a French term and which is used to describe the various types of literature. Just like we say different kinds, different types. In literature, we say different genres of literature. For example, poetry, prose, drama. So broadly speaking, there are three main genres of literature: poetry, prose, and drama. We will take a start from poetry. So you should know what is poetry, what are the kinds of poetry, what are the different features of poetry. So now I will give you a brief introduction to poetry and its kinds. Okay, so let me take you to the wonderful world of poetry, and I hope you will enjoy it. Poetry. Now, what is poetry? Poetry is a literary work in which the expression of feelings and ideas is given intensity by the use of distinctive style and rhythm. In simple words, poetry is a kind of expression of feelings and emotions of the poet. When a poet feels something, when he experiences something, he writes about it. This is what poetry is. But you have to keep one thing in your mind. It always has a specific style and rhythm. Poetry has a specific style and rhythm. Different poets and writers, they have given different views about poetry. For example, Wordsworth, he is regarded as poet of nature. What he says about poetry, let me read it out for you. Poetry is the spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings. He says, poetry is a kind of overflow of feelings. And that overflow, which is spontaneous, automatic, natural. So naturally, when the feelings, they come out in the form of words, that is poetry. Next, poetry is a musical thought. Carlyle. According to Carlyle, poetry is a musical thought. So, as I have already told you, poetry has a style and rhythm, specific style, melody, harmony. Okay? So this is what poetry is. You should know. Okay. Now, kinds of poetry. There are two kinds of poetry: subjective poetry and objective poetry. Subjective poetry is personal. You should always remember this. When a writer writes about his own feelings, emotions, his personal feelings, that is subjective poetry. Objective poetry is about the objects, not about the personal feelings. Fine? So subjective poetry is personal and objective poetry is impersonal. Subjective poetry is about poet's own personal feelings and emotions, while objective poetry is about objects, other objects in the world. Okay. Now subjective poetry is further divided into lyrical poetry. Lyrical poetry is a poetry which expresses personal thoughts and emotions. So that's why it is a subcategory of subjective poetry. Subjective poetry is personal. It expresses or describes personal emotions and feelings. So lyrical poetry is a poetry which expresses personal thoughts and emotions. And lyrical poetry is further divided into elegy, sonnet, and ode. Now, what is elegy? Elegy is a kind of poem which is written on the death or loss of someone or something. I am repeating my words. Elegy is a kind of poem which is written on the death or loss of someone or something. That poem is called elegy. Now examples are given to you. Break, Break, Break by Tennyson. You will study this poem. And then In Memoriam also by Tennyson. So these are the examples of elegy. Ode. Now what is an ode? An ode is a long lyric poem with a serious subject matter written in an elevated style. Now ode is a long poem. A lyric poem, of course, personal emotions and feelings. The subject matter, the idea with which it deals, it is always serious. And the style, it's always grand. So, ode is a long poem, expresses personal feelings and emotions. It has a very grand and sublime style. Ode to Autumn by John Keats, Ode to the West Wind by Shelley, Ode to a Nightingale by Keats. Fine. So when I will teach you ode, I will ask you. So you should know what is an ode. Okay. Next, sonnet. Sonnet, it consists of 14 lines. You should remember this. Sonnet consists of 14 lines, or it is a 14-line poem. And it deals with different subjects, different ideas. Fine. Shakespeare's sonnets are very, very famous. Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? You will study this sonnet. Fine. So sonnet is a poem of 14 lines. And Shakespeare's sonnets are very famous in English literature. Okay. Okay, as I have already told you that poetry is divided into subjective poetry and objective poetry. Within subjective poetry, we studied lyrical poetry, elegy, ode, sonnet. And now within objective poetry, it is divided into narrative poetry and dramatic poetry. So first, what is narrative poetry? It tells a story and it is always told by a narrator. It is just like someone is telling a story. It is not prose, it is poetry. But the style is that it is always told by a narrator. Within that, epic. Narrative poetry is further divided into epic and ballad. Epic is a long narrative poem having grand subject and sublime idea. Epic is very long. For example, John Milton's Paradise Lost, it has, I say, 12 books. So epic is very long poem, very long. And its idea is always very grand, very sublime. Then there are some other specific features of an epic. For example, supernatural forces, supernatural beings, heroic deeds. So these are all different features of an epic. And within example, you may remember or you can memorize Paradise Lost by John Milton. John Milton was a poet. Now next is ballad. Objective poetry is divided into narrative poetry and dramatic poetry. First we are studying narrative poetry, and within narrative poetry it is further divided into epic and ballad. We are done with epic, and now what is ballad? Ballad is a song which tells a story. So ballad is a kind of song. It can be sung. And as if I tell you about other features of ballad, the main or key phrases, they are repeated. Idea is very simple. Fine. And example is given. La belle dame sans merci. In English it means the beautiful lady without mercy. And this ballad is written by John Keats. He was a poet, romantic poet. Okay. Dramatic poetry. Dramatic poetry is a poetry written for the theatre specifically. So as far as dramatic poetry is concerned, you should remember one thing. That is dramatic monologue. What is dramatic monologue? Could you see this word monologue? Mono means one and log means speech or speaking. So in dramatic monologue, there is always a single person who is speaking. In dramatic monologue, there is always a single person who is speaking and there is a passive listener. Passive listener is the listener who doesn't respond. So I was telling you about dramatic monologue that there is a single person and there is a passive listener. Passive listener is a listener who doesn't respond, who doesn't reply. though he listens, but he doesn't reply. And there is a single person. So with this, we are done with kinds of poetry. Now we will proceed towards elements of poetry. Different elements, fine, like speaker, theme, diction, figures of speech. So let's get started. Number one, speaker. The speaker is the person who speaks in or narrates the poem. The speaker and poet are not necessarily the same person. Let me clarify it for you. For example, I am Maria and I write something. I write a poem, for example. Okay, so I will be the poet or poetess. But if I make any imaginary character in my poem and that imaginary character of my poem narrates it, not Maria is narrating, but that imaginary character in my poem, he is narrating. So that person would be the speaker. I will be the poet because I have written a poem. But that person will be the speaker because he is narrating the poem. For example, this sonnet of Shakespeare, the first line is, "Shall I compare thee to a summer's day?" Now in this one, Shakespeare is the poet and he himself is the speaker. But there is another poem by Robert Browning. Robert Browning is the poet, but in his poem, My Last Duchess, he is not narrating. There is a character, Duke of Ferrara. He is narrating the poem. And the poem starts like this: "That's my last duchess painted on the wall." So, Robert Browning is poet. And Duke, in that poem, he is a narrator. So, Robert Browning is poet and that Duke is speaker. This is the difference. Sometimes the speaker and poet, they are same. Sometimes the speaker and poet, they are not same. They are two different people. Okay? But yes, you should know that as far as the speaker is concerned, so of course, the poet himself appoints that speaker or he creates an imaginary character. Just like Robert Browning has created this character, Duke of Ferrara, in his poem, My Last Duchess. I hope it's clear now. Theme. In simple words, I would say theme is the main idea of poem. You see, every work, it revolves around something. So what is the message or the main theme or the main idea? That main idea is called the theme of that poem. Fine? Next, diction. Diction means choice of words, arrangement of words, that what kind of words the poet uses. For example, sometimes the poet uses very pleasant, simple, and sweet words, but sometimes he uses very harsh words. So, diction means choice of words, selection of words. Okay? Imagery. Next, we have imagery. Now, what is imagery? Imagery is group of words which a poet or writer selects to evoke the senses of the reader. Imagery is group of words used by the poet to evoke the senses of the reader. You see, could you see the picture? 5 senses: sense of sight, sense of hearing, sense of smell, sense of touch, and sense of taste. So, in poetry, when the poet uses different words to evoke the senses of the reader, this is called imagery. Let me give you an example. I say, or there is a poem in which there is this line, "I wandered lonely as a cloud." Now, could you imagine? The clouds? You are imagining something. Something is coming in front of your eyes. I wandered lonely as a clouds. that floats on high over valleys and hills. Now valleys and hills and clouds, there is a kind of image in front of your eyes. This is called imagery. Fine. And through these lines, your sense of sight is evoked. So we will call it imagery. And what is imagery? Use of words to evoke or to trigger the senses of the reader. For example, when the poet talks about beautiful mountains, snowfall, rain, an image is created in front of your eyes. That is called imagery. Okay? And sometimes the writers uses words like falling waterfall, sound of waterfall. So these are, through this example, your sense of hearing is evoked. So different senses are evoked. Sometimes sense of sight, sometimes sense of hearing, sometimes sense of smell. For example, if the poet talks about roses, so first your sense of sight is evoked. Okay, beautiful red rose. Then you must be thinking about the fragrance. Then your sense of smell is evoked. This is imagery. Okay? Next, stanza. Okay, you know, as far as poetry is concerned, there are different stanzas. Fine. In prose, we don't have stanzas, we have paragraphs. But in poetry, we have stanzas. Okay? So, stanzas, they are always found in poetry. They are not found in novels or prose or other writings like essay. In essay, you will not have stanza. In novel, you will not have stanza. But in poetry, there are stanzas. Okay. Rhyme. Now, what is rhyme? Similarity or likeness of sound existing between two words. Top, stop. You see, they are similar in sound. This similarity of sound is called rhyme. Fine. Top, stop. Okay. Then within rhyme, there are two kinds. Internal rhyme and end rhyme. What is internal rhyme? Internal rhyme occurs when rhyming words appear in the same line of poetry. For example, the rain in Spain falls mainly on the plain. Now, rain, Spain, plain, similarity of sound is there, and it is found in the same line, one line. It is called internal rhyme. Fine. On the other hand, we have end rhyme. Now, what is end rhyme? When those rhyming words, when they appear at the end of two or more than two lines. When the rhyming words are found in the same line, they are called, or you can say this is called internal rhyme. But when those rhyming words, they are found in two or more than two different lines, they are called end rhyme. For example, I think I shall never see a poem as lovely as a tree. Now see is a part of first line, tree is a part of second line. See and tree. This kind of rhyme is called end rhyme because the words they appear at the end of the line. But as far as the previous one is concerned, rain in Spain, plain, all these similar sounding words, they appear in the same line. So that's why it is called internal rhyme. Next, symbolism. What is symbolism? It means the use of person, place or thing or an event to represent something else. Symbol is the use of a concrete object to represent something abstract. For example, could you see two pictures? Number one, of a flower or a rose, and number two, dove. As far as rose is concerned, apparently rose is a flower, but it stands for something. There is a deeper meaning. And what is that? Beauty, love, Dove, apparently it's a bird, but it stands for peace. So just like that, in poetry, different symbols are used by the poets. For example, if I talk about winter, apparently winter is just a season. Winter, summer, autumn, spring. But on deeper level, winter stands for grief, death, gloominess, sadness. So different symbols are used in the poems, and they represent something very intense and deep. Okay? Next, alliteration, consonants, and assonance. Okay, what is alliteration? Alliteration is repetition of initial consonant sounds. For example, weak and weary. Now W and W. Could you see? They are written with red color. WW. So repetition of consonant sounds, you see, as far as English alphabets are concerned, they are divided into vowels and consonants. So when there is this repetition of consonant sound in the beginning, specifically in the beginning, like W, W, it is called alliteration. Then consonants is repetition of final consonant sounds. For example, pull, fall, now double L, double L. So this is a repetition of consonant sounds, but not in the beginning. If it is in the beginning, it is called alliteration. If it is not in the beginning, it would be called as consonants. You have to memorize these concepts, okay? I'm repeating my words. When the consonant sounds, they are repeated initially or in the beginning, it would be called alliteration. When these consonant sounds are repeated not in the beginning, they would be called consonants, or it would be called consonants. Now assonance. Assonance has nothing to do with consonants. Assonance deals with vowel sounds. A, E, I, O, U. Low. ठीक है? Do. Now O, O. So alliteration and consonants, they deal with consonant sounds. When consonant sounds, there is a repetition of consonant sounds in the beginning, it is called alliteration. When there is repetition of consonant sounds not in the beginning, it is consonants. And when there is repetition of vowel sounds anywhere, it would be assonance. So alliteration and consonants deal with consonant sounds. Assonance deals with vowel sounds. So I hope it's clear now, and inshallah we will continue. We will study some other features of poetry. Thank you so much for your time. Allah Hafiz. Stay safe.